Dear fellow patriot, nobody is connecting the dots, but a major disruption in the food supply is about to bring America to its knees, practically overnight. No joke. People will die from a temporary flash food crash, and what's worse is that it could have been prevented. If you think the casualties in the recent power outages and floods were heartbreaking, I've just got one thing to say. I hope this message reaches you in time. Don't believe the hype about the end of America, though. We are the greatest nation, and we will bounce back. We've seen hard times before and risen again. But we've lost our way and put our faith in the wrong thing. Is technology setting you up to fail? From our trust in modern society's fancy systems, we've forgotten the lessons of simpler times, and millions of Americans are completely unprepared for what's coming. So the good news is that those who are prepared survive in spite of this. In fact, we'll be stronger because of it. But the bad news is that the disruption could be long enough that people will needlessly starve to death before the Food Network is brought back online. If you're not prepared, it's going to get ugly. I'm not kidding. One day people will be enjoying their summer, riding jet skis and cooking barbecue. Then the flash crash will hit, and within a matter of days, those same people will be suffering from hunger pangs so bad, they'll be scrambling to steal dog food from their neighbors. That'll be just the beginning. Yes, in so-called good neighborhoods, too. Hunger is the great equalizer, and you can't eat a Mercedes. Even worse is that many people who think they are prepared are in for a rude awakening when they discover that they've stocked up on the wrong things. Sometimes the difference between survival and death is one simple missing thing, just one mistake, and that's it. You're out of luck. My goal is to make sure you and your loved ones are prepared, no matter what. I'm passionate about doing my part, and I hope you'll be inspired to spread the word and help your friends, neighbors, and loved ones, too. I hope you'll be inspired to spread the word and help your neighbors, too. I know I can't reach everyone. Listen, the biggest danger right now is that things look pretty normal when you go to the store and buy food to feed your family. Why? Because the reality is a false sense of security, and people are just not prepared because things look normal. This is only the deadly calm before the storm. In third world countries, food shocks happen all the time, but those people are prepared. They grow their own food. They don't freak out and riot and loot and kill each other over temporary shortages. But in the Western world, we're so far removed from food production, and we're more worried about losing a few pounds than stocking up on supplies. We should be careful what we wish for because a crash diet of sorts is already on its way, and people will lose weight more than they can survive. The fact is we're skating on very thin ice, and the temperature is rising. Here's the problem. Local stores have maybe 2 to 3 days of food in stock. That's it. A major disruption could leave you unable to get food in time to survive the shortage. Of course, the oldest and youngest in your family are most at risk. You may have some supplies stocked away, but the odds are that you're missing critical items, and that's what this message is about. My goal is to make sure you have everything you need to feed your loved ones, no matter what happens. But that's not all. Frankly, the bigger danger is everyone else who is not prepared and what they're prepared to do to survive. Wide-eyed strangers and even neighbors may soon be beating down your door to steal your dog food, or worse. Unlike any time in modern history, the threat of a total breakdown in the food supply could happen at any time. Here's what you're up against. A greater percentage of Americans than ever before in our nation's history are totally dependent on others to provide for their basic survival needs. Even if you personally know how to hunt, make weapons, store food, and build an ark for you and your family to withstand a great flood, your neighbors generally don't. If texting, Facebook, and knowing how to download the latest Hollywood movie for free were valuable after a crisis, we'd be all set. But too many guys just don't know how to swing a hammer, and something as basic as sewing is a complete mystery to many men and women today. I'm not suggesting that you have to give up the conveniences of modern life, and I'm not sneering at the inevitable changes in our cultural priorities with the rise of supermarkets and the age of bubble-wrap coddling we get from cradle to grave. Okay, well, I am a little bit. The simple truth is that there are too many single points of failure. What that means is that a single failure can bring down an entire infrastructure instantly. We're all familiar with the tragedy of Hurricane Sandy, the deadliest and most destructive hurricane of 2012. Over 8 million people were left without power. This past spring, the Northeast had even more power outages after a storm that brought hurricane-force winds and more than 2 feet of snow. Last summer, over 600 million people in India were without electricity because their grid went down, and this was in the middle of the summer. It took years for New Orleans to recover from Katrina, and these kinds of disruptions are sickeningly common these days. What we're finding out is that when our electricity goes down, our fancy electronic society goes down too. And I'm not even talking about the potential for terror attacks on our power grid, or the massive forest fires we've seen in Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and California that have left folks with minutes or less to evacuate. Unfortunately, you can't eat good intentions. The weakest link in most survival preparedness is food and water storage. Most Americans have a few days' worth of food, and much of it is perishable if the power goes out, and that's precisely why things can get real ugly real quick. But this goes beyond disasters. The fact is that we now have food supply problems for the first time in decades right here in America, and most people have no idea what's happening. See, food shortages aren't just determined by natural disasters. Even now, as you read this, American farms in the Midwest are reaching a point of no return, thanks to a record drought that some say is by far worse than the one of 1988. Corn just hit an all-time price high as a result, and it doesn't help that we're literally burning much of our corn crops in the form of inefficient ethanol, but that's another problem for another day. A recent report said that corn crops are disappearing, and we can't fix that overnight. Just the disruption of corn can cause a chain reaction, and it's very much like a single point of failure. The lack of rain has reduced the crop yield, and ethanol prices rise, affecting the price of fuel. Corn is also a major ingredient in all livestock feed, so the price of meat and dairy products go up too. It also reduces the amount of corn syrup available, which strains the economy because it's literally in everything. At the minimum, food prices will rise and shortages are very likely, whether for economic reasons, disaster, or both. If a terrorist wanted to bring America to her knees, a bio-warfare attack on our food supply would wreak havoc in a hurry. The vast majority of Americans live in urban population centers, and a disruption, an attack, or shortages would cause concentrated chaos like you normally expect in straight-to-DVD disaster movies. Even if you don't think a disaster or terror attack will ever hit where you live, you simply must consider that a simple food shortage is definitely in the cards for everyone. The threat to your survival and the well-being of your loved ones could be in jeopardy at any time, and it takes a bit of focused fear to snap yourself out of complacency to take the necessary steps to prepare. The question is, what are you going to do about it so that you and your loved ones are prepared? The first step is to acknowledge the problem. We just did that, so what's next? Step 1. Have a proven plan. You've got to have a plan because in a crisis, the ability to think clearly and improvise goes right out the window. Because of the fight-or-flight response, even normally level-headed folks can panic if they don't have a simple plan to follow. Here are just some of the food-related questions you need to have answers for in a crisis. What are the most likely emergency occurrences to happen in your area? Do you live near a coastline or major river? Or near a fault line where temperatures reach below freezing? In a big city or a rural area, are you more susceptible to a flood, hurricane, tornado, earthquake, or other natural disaster? How long would such a natural disaster and its recovery period last? Would the most likely disaster affect your area, allow for cooking? Or would they likely wipe out electricity and power sources? What skills and supplies do you have to cook without power? What items do you already buy on a regular basis that have a long shelf life? Where will you keep your stored food? How large of a space is it? What do you know you and your family will eat? What is questionable? What is worth trying? What won't be eaten, taking kids and elderly members of your family into consideration? Here's the thing, I said proven plan. Most people don't have the training or experience with crisis situations to devise or follow a plan that will actually work in a crisis. A single innocent mistake can lead to tragedy. It's easy to assume that some smarts and common sense will get you through anything. But you'd be surprised how often folks are really smart in normal life with advanced degrees or important office jobs and are like fish out of water when the power goes out. Survival requires a whole different set of skills and knowledge. There's no shame in not knowing these things, but now that you know the danger, there is no sense in ignoring it. Time for some cold, hard truth. Few things would be more haunting than to see the faces of your loved ones as you discovered that the food you thought you stored for an emergency was unfit to eat, or gone. It's more likely to happen than you think, too, because most people have no plan and therefore have not considered Step 2. Step 2. Know what food you can't live without. There are 7 essential categories of supplies that you need. You could stop 9 out of 10 Americans on the street and they probably couldn't name more than 3. I'm afraid that success has made us too trusting of our supermarket food supply. Again, it's understandable, but that won't feed your family in a crisis either. The fact is that most of your favorite or convenient things that you keep on hand during normal times will let you down in a crisis. Domino's won't deliver within 30 minutes. Soda will literally accelerate your death if you drink it while dehydrated because your body needs water to process all the sugar and chemicals. And it's not easy as most people think to store enough water to provide for survival and sanitation. Besides, you'll have to have contingency plans for evacuation and surviving at home because if you have to leave in a hurry, that will change your focus dramatically compared to drawing upon a home stash of food and water. You need to know that curveballs are normal during a crisis, which means you absolutely need to factor in a certain amount of chaos into your survival plan. Assuming you have a plan and identify the right supplies and quantities, the next step is Step 3, how to store your supplies. You may have heard of the rule of threes. It's the closest thing to a general rule that survival situations have. You can survive for 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Now that you've got your plan and supplies, where will you keep it? The attic? The basement? Or maybe the pantry, garage? Or should you hide your supplies off-site somewhere? If so, where? How much space you have available and how many people you are providing for will also need to be factored in. 1 square foot of space from floor to an 8-foot ceiling can store enough food to last 3 people for 3 months. We've covered the first 3 steps you simply must take to get prepared to provide for yourself and your loved ones in the event of a crisis where there's a disruption to your food supply. But my point is to drive home the core lesson that you must be prepared to act instantly when crisis strikes. You've got to have a plan in place and have the necessary supplies on hand. There is no time for thinking or wondering in a crisis, and you can't eat good intentions. There is no mercy from forces of nature, or the foes of our country as we all learned so tragically on September 11, 2001. There is no second chance, no appeal, and no solace in almost survived either. Am I scaring you? Frankly, good. I have to. The greatest danger to your survival is complacency because you and I both know the odds are that nothing will happen. Which is all fine and dandy until something does happen. Which is why every single time there is such a crisis, you'll see traumatized survivors interviewed afterwards saying they never thought it could happen to them. They always wish they had done something to prepare, but they didn't. The worst happened, and it caught them blindsided. There is no consolation in that moment for the gut-wrenching loss, besides an instinctive drive to carry on and overcome. I think it's a sense of deeply held guilt that is the worst emotion of all because it's so utterly helpless and unforgiving. No one should starve. It's truly a horrible way to die. It's even worse when it happens to someone you love right in front of your eyes. And there is no way to turn back time. As they say, all we have is now. So instead of risking that same heartbreaking fate, let's talk about what you must do instead to survive and protect the ones you love. You're not on your own. If you don't know all this stuff already, it's not your fault. It used to be that Americans grew up with this knowledge, handed down from previous generations, but today, nobody teaches these things in school. One thing Americans have learned is that it's essential to specialize. You know how to do your job, live your life, and adapt to your surroundings. We all do it. I just happen to have adapted to crisis and survived to tell about it. And I'd like to help you by sharing what I know. Here's a simple food survival solution that's easier, cheaper, and more convenient than you'd ever imagined. Most of the stuff you'll need is available at your local big box store. But stay with me here. Don't run out and wing it, buying items that would seem like essential survival supplies. Remember, even small mistakes or gaps can be deadly. What you need is a proven blueprint, not just for food supplies either. See, it may not be lack of supplies that could prove fatal or even a lack of knowledge. Instead, it is falling into conventional instincts that are just fine for everyday life, but absolutely deadly in a crisis situation. A simple rule of thumb is if it feels comfortable, it's probably the wrong decision. Survival situations require a specific way of thinking to avoid a deer-in-the-headlights response to a natural disaster, eventual breakdown in the fabric of society, and rampant, raw outbreaks of violence. When it comes to your food supply, you'll either prepare now or potentially fight to the death with others later for scraps. That's why I created When the Food Runs Out, How to Choose and Store the Goods You'll Need in a Crisis Situation. I created this report because I've spent years immersed in the essential survival knowledge you'll need and because I was inspired by the escalating disasters happening worldwide in recent years. I don't want anyone else to suffer or rely on dumb luck to survive when I have so much proven information to offer. My When the Food Runs Out report gives you the essential blueprint you need to get prepared and a tangible action plan to make sure you are truly stocked up with the essentials and ready for anything to protect your loved ones should the unthinkable happen. Of course, I say unthinkable, but that's not true, is it? The whole point here is that the unthinkable has become all too common, and literally 9 out of 10 Americans are completely unprepared. This report will make sure you are prepared to provide for your loved ones. Here's what I mean. In the When the Food Runs Out report, you'll get 37 compact pages of proven survival savvy to quickly get you up to speed and in the know. Specific instructions for food supplies and storage in a wide variety of crisis situations. What specifically you must have in each of the 7 essential categories, and what amounts. The insider knowledge you need to make sure you and your loved ones have enough of the right food and supplies, and how to avoid commonly deadly mistakes. Essential non-food supplies that can make or break your survival plans that everyone seems to forget about until it's too late. My detailed and affordable supplies list, and where to get the essentials without breaking the bank in these tough times. Specific amounts and variety of foods to provide solid nutritional value while assuring you have what you need and can enjoy what you're eating. Proper protection that keeps your food and supplies, and how to use multiple locations to protect what you have stored from looters and disaster damage. The real key to survival cooking, and how to prepare food so that you can make supplies last and feel satisfied at the same time during lean times. How to know when to pass on a meal and when it's critical to eat. What to do when the worst happens, and what skills you need to get through tough times. Kits and supplies that make preparation easier on you and on your wallet, too. And much more. But not too much. I've learned these survival skills over a lifetime, yet I don't overwhelm you with unnecessary details because I know your plan has to be simple and easy to follow in a crisis. The last thing you need is some phone book-sized encyclopedia filled with useless details. So why should you listen to me? My name is Wallace Street, and right now you can consider me your one-man wake-up call. I've been called one part Indiana Jones, one part Daddy Warbucks, and one part Elvis Presley by those who know me. I'm a senior contributor to AbsoluteRights.com and SurvivalLife.com, and normally my unique experiences in life allow me to share my insight into business, preparedness, negotiation, and a long list of other eclectic subjects. But today it all comes down to your food supply in a crisis because without that, nothing else matters, right? For that, my background as a field medic could be a lifesaver for you. I've spent the better part of 3 decades in one hot spot or another around the world, and I've seen life and death situations more often than anyone probably should. Over the years, I've also developed a network of specialists in the field of survival, including hardcore guys in the military and civilian first responders. I'm talking about highly trained medical specialists, Homeland Security agents, retired special forces, street-hardened cops, EMTs who've literally seen it all, decorated firefighters, expert hostage negotiators, hand-to-hand combat trainers, and every course or book out there. It's taken me almost 2 decades to amass this training, and I highly recommend you allow me to offer you a few shortcuts so you can avoid all the common mistakes people make in a crisis, specifically when the food runs out. I've distilled the essential, must-know, gotta-have, field-tested information in my When the Food Runs Out report so you can quickly and easily get up to speed. With my report in your hands, you can literally go to the store just once or over a period when it's convenient for you to get exactly what you need. When you're done, you can breathe a deep sigh of relief. You'll have the peace of mind knowing you've done your part. Let me assure you that there's nothing exotic or hard to find in my work. I've written a report in the same plain language I use here, so there's no jargon or confusing mumbo-jumbo to sort through. And like I said, most things you'll need are available locally or nearby where you live. The sooner you get started, the more time you have to prepare. Conveniently, I've made it so you can get instant access within about 5 minutes. Let's get my When the Food Runs Out report in your hands right now. I'm not going to go into some big song and dance about what the cost of not being prepared could be. If that's not clear to everyone after the horrible loss of life from the multiple crises suffered by thousands in just the last few years alone, there's really nothing I can say anyway. One life is worth any price, and we both know that. But I will say this. I've seen well-intentioned people waste $250, $500, even $1,000 or more on the wrong supplies to think they are prepared. And not only is that a waste of money, but false security is more expensive than anyone can afford. There is a high price for the stress and anxiety of knowing that you and your loved ones are not prepared. Every time you see a news report of another disaster, it's like a cold bucket of ice water pouring down your spine as you realize that could be you. Or worse, that could be someone you love. The bottom line is that I've set out to make this extremely easy for you. And listen, I've bought courses, reports, and personal training that cost me $250, $500, even $2,500 or more that didn't have the right information in it, which is what I packed into my report. Just by market value, I could easily sell my report for $97. That would be worth every penny, considering what I put into this report, and what that could save you from, of course. I want to get When the Food Runs Out into as many hands as possible, and I know full well these are tough times. Hey, I even thought about just giving the report away until I made a disturbing discovery. When it comes to life-saving information, people simply don't value things if they are free. There's no skin in the game, and they sit on a hard drive or on a shelf. Think about it. You know it's true. I know it's true for me. You could go out right now and research food preparedness online, and after a few hundred hours, you'd be able to compile a whole lot of information, sift through all the irrelevant and incorrect information, and eventually arrive at something useful. But you won't do it, and neither would most people. That would be a serious waste of your time, considering the proven blueprint and step-by-step workbook are waiting for you right now. I know times are tough, so I've decided to offer my report for a fair and low price, on one condition. I ask that you act now and take action today on what you discover. Deal? Of course, I'm not going to police you on this, but I believe firmly in the honor system. You wouldn't still be watching this if you weren't serious. So if you agree, then I've provided a special order link below for the one-time investment of $27. There's nothing to ship. You'll get instant access to your digital report immediately when you complete your order in my secure shopping cart. And when you order today, I'll include these special reports, too. Bonus Report 1, Growing Up, the Ins and Outs of Up and Down Gardening Report, valued at $27. When you think of gardening, you might imagine a huge space and backbreaking work. But thanks to innovation, you can actually grow essential fruits and veggies vertically, and not only save space, but keep your crops away from animals, pests, and even looters. Don't waste your time or money on flimsy junk you see advertised on TV. I've got the scoop on the best and most affordable setup that can provide you with an ongoing source of nutrient-rich food, a real lifesaver. Plus, you can enjoy these fruits and veggies now and save money at the grocery store, too. Bonus Report 2, Canning Your Own Food, valued at $27. Another way top experts recommend to store food in good times and bad is through the lost art of canning. Done right, you can store up a huge volume of all different kinds of food for just pennies on the dollar. Combined with the ability to grow your own fruits and vegetables, you can stock up on nutrient-rich food and even can chili, stew, soup, and other essentials. It's so much easier than you think. Bonus Report 3, How to Cook and Store Food Outside report, valued at $27. With the chaos of a crisis situation, you've got to be able to provide food and survive in the outdoors. Too many plans don't factor this reality in, and therefore otherwise good information is doomed to failure. In this special report, I cover this crucial topic and give you the essential skills you need, as well as tips on what additional supplies to stock up on. Bonus Report 4, 170 gallons a day, valued at $27. As you know, we can live only 72 hours without water in some conditions, and water is one of the most bulky, heavy, and difficult things to store and transport. This essential report shows you how to collect, purify, and store drinking and sanitation water from almost any source, besides a radioactive one, even urine, chemicals, and of course, rainwater and pond water. This one report could save your life and is worth the price of the entire offer without a doubt. The value of all these bonus reports is a combined $108. So for just $27, you get $145 worth of reports for priceless information that could save your life. Right now you can get a decent dinner for $27. In a crisis, when you can't buy food, this collection of reports can feed your family. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. If for any reason at all you aren't absolutely pleased with my reports, I insist that you tell me you want your money back. Just request your money back within 60 days and you'll get a cheerful refund immediately. I do ask that you check out my reports and make your decision within 60 days because, frankly, I want you to take action to get yourself prepared. No matter what, I'm committed to your 100% satisfaction. So try my reports out on me for 60 days and claim your copies today. Claim your copy of When the Food Runs Out right now. Your report is waiting for you to claim it. Just $27 gets you instant digital access. Here's what you do to order. Have your MasterCard, American Express, or Visa ready and click the big orange button below to continue. Remember, we have a deal that you'll act now and take action. On my end, I'm going to encourage you to move quickly by taking this page down soon. The fact is, I've wanted to turn these reports into a larger course with audio and video for a much higher price. There are some very cool things you can do with multimedia, after all. But the truth is, everything you need to get prepared is in these reports. Don't leave this page and think you'll come back later. Don't do it because you know what will happen. You'll forget and it won't happen. Listen, I don't know how long this page will be up, but let's not play that game. You know you need this information to protect yourself and your loved ones from these dangerous times. At $27, this is a no-brainer, unless you really believe that nothing will ever happen to disrupt your food supply where you live. It sounds silly, doesn't it? Go ahead and get your instant download of my When the Food Runs Out report and my 4 bonus reports worth $108. Take these simple steps to provide yourself and your loved ones no matter what happens. I know it's easier to procrastinate, but you know that's not the right choice. Grab your copies while you can, literally. Until now, you've been lucky. You got a pass from fate. My recommendation is don't count on being lucky when it comes to your loved ones, even if you're willing to gamble with your own safety. Bravery can get you in trouble. I know all too well. Claim your copies here. Remember, your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love right now since you're still reading and haven't claimed your copies of my reports. No way your peace of mind and safety of your loved ones isn't worth a few bucks. Do not be one of those people on TV who gets interviewed after a disaster with a horrible story of loss and pain. Trust me, it's not worth it. Remember, you're protected by my 100% guarantee of satisfaction, so there's literally no excuse for not getting prepared today. In my When the Food Runs Out report, I walk you step by step through everything you need to know and do to provide for your survival in case the worst happens. I've packed more actionable information in these reports than in many courses I've seen at many times the small asking price I've offered you here. Isn't your peace of mind worth it? More to the point, the ones you love are worth it. Imagine being self-sufficient with your food supply in a crisis or tough economic times. Don't let procrastination or doubt be the enemy of your survival. Seriously, get this done. Claim your reports now with an instant download. There's nothing to ship, so you get your reports immediately online. To your health and well-being, no matter what. Wallace Street.